Hello everybody, here again we are. My name is John Brink and this is On the Brink, our podcast from Prince George in beautiful British Columbia. And my guest today is a special guest. His name is Albert Koehler. Welcome to the show, Albert.
Thank you. Good to fine to be here.
And talking a little bit about your past, you were not born in Canada, but you were born in Germany.
That's correct. I was born in Germany, in northern Germany, in the city of Bremen.
Bremen.
And, that was many years ago.
Yes. And so now, as you already know, I was born in northern Holland. And actually, if you drove from my town in northern Holland, close to the border with Germany, it's about 15 minutes. And it would take me about an hour and 15 minutes to drive to Bremen.
Yes.
And then a little bit about Bremen is that Bremen is a beautiful city. I've been there many times, and it has a lot of very attractive things about it. And then there is always another thing about Bremen, is that it is in close proximity in northwestern Germany, again close to the border with Holland, but it has also a connection to Bremerhaven.
That's correct.
And then when I was young, I always thought about it, okay, that is Bremen, and then right next to it is Bremerhaven, but it isn't, because it's about 60 kilometers away, and it's right on actually where it connects to the North Sea, and then there is a canal, or is it a river?
Well, it is a transition from the river to a canal. It's actually still a river. It's a Weser, as it's called, right?
Right. Mm-hmm. And so that creates the connection in a lot of the economy to Bremen, because a lot has to do with access to Bremerhaven and then on to the wide world. And again, for the people that are watching, just to get a kind of a picture, is that not far from there, actually between where I was born in Holland, halfway between there and Hamburg is Bremen. So the next on the road to Hamburg, you would halfway through, you pass through Bremen.
True.
Very beautiful area.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the economy of Bremen? When you grew up, there's a fair amount of farming going on, and then a lot of other industrial.
Yes, Bremen is the smallest county or country or province, if you want to say, of Germany. It's a small city, and around the property is called the Niedersachsen. So I'm still born in the country and city of Bremen. When I was there, the harbors and also Bremerhaven were very busy. That has changed so much, but there's lots of trade going on still, and farming. Yeah, so that has changed. The economy is not the best at the moment,
no,
but it's up and down anyway.
Yeah. So the other part about it is that if I look at northwestern Germany, Germany and Holland are very close in proximity, right, but also close. And again, for the benefit of our listeners and that are watching our show, is that when I grew up, obviously I was born in 1940 at the start of the war. And then, I remember well that, during the war years, and then when the bombing and all of that was bad for everybody, right? So it's not one good guy and the other. Everybody was for all intents and purposes, a victim of all of this, So, but then after all of that, even when I was already in the lower grades, we already would go across the border and we interacted, but there were still borders between them that you had to show a passport. Through most of Europe, you had to do that. If you go now and with the EC, or the European Community, is you don't even stop, you drive right through from one to the other. And which is very normal, and so a lot of people are interacting, especially when they're closer to the borders.
That's true. It is nice. You only find out that you're in a different country because the license plates have a different color, but otherwise it's and you have the feeling, oh, the houses are somewhat different, maybe only, but otherwise you do not recognize that you're in a different country.
Especially when you're in the transition period, right? So like I'm within 10 minutes from the border, so I can speak and I can understand a lot of German, especially when you get closer to the border, then it intermingles more and more because over history, we are talking a snippet of history. If you go back to Bremen, it used to be controlled by the Romans, and actually there is another, Gans is that Bremen, or it used to be kind of a kingdom, or
right. Yes, many years ago. Bremen is 2,000 years old.
2,000 years old.
Yes.
Prince George was incorporated in 1914. So it kind of puts it into perspective for our listeners, what makes it unique. And a lot of times also what happens is that the part that I was born in northeastern Holland is that because it is so close to the border, we speak a dialect in that area, that the people in Holland really don't understand my dialect unless I speak High Dutch. Now, the interesting part about it is that if I go to the German side, and again, Bremen would speak High Dutch, High German, I presume, but the closer you get to the border, the two dialects virtually intermingle. And I always remember there was a jeweler dealership here in town, and the fellow was also German, and he came right from the other side of the border. So we would speak dialect together. His dialect is virtually the same as mine.
This is interesting. I grew up on a countryside, and I grew up with Low German. Low German is probably close to where you're born.
That's the whole point.
I could speak Low German with you. I grew up with Low German and learned the High German in school.
Exactly, exactly. And then the interesting part, without over belaboring this, but I think it is so interesting for people to understand that, is that as you grew up speaking Low German, I spoke Groninger dialect, which is kind of a farmer dialect and is very similar to yours. And then the interesting part that also, Albert, and probably the same for you, I presume, that interesting for me, I would never lose the dialect in Holland. They always would know and saying, oh, he's from the farmer country up north there. However, when I came to Canada, the dialect, which is my base that I grew up on speaking, adapts much easier to English than the High Dutch does.
When you're here for several years, you lose that, and it changes over. There's a certain transition there. If I speak with somebody says so right away, you're from Germany. They say, yeah, that's true. But some of them can even identify whether you're from North Germany or South Germany. So I'm from North Germany, right?
Yeah, but somebody in Germany can tell.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Same in Holland with me. Yes. They can tell that I'm.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me a little bit about you grew up in the district or the region of Bremen. Tell me a little bit about your youth and how.
Well, I grew up in the countryside of Bremen, which is close to Delmenhorst and Oldenburg. There are some cities.
That is to the west side.
That's to the west side, on the west side of the Weser, which is the river there.
Yeah.
And this little village was called Strom, but was part of Bremen.
Yeah.
And I grew up on a farm there, 150 people in that little village.
Yeah.
And we had, for that time, it was probably a good sized farm of around 40 hectares.
Which was a lot.
Pardon me?
That was big there.
That was big there then. Yeah. Now you can't make a living with that. No way.
Yeah.
And I have 3 siblings, and we certainly didn't have, like everybody else around this time, TVs or radios or phone or indoor toilet, you name it. Yeah. We didn't have it on the farm, but if you don't know it, don't know better, then this is what it is, and you're happy with it. Right?
Yeah.
So I cannot complain. I had a good youth. I played on the farm and grew up there in our little village school with 4 grades in one class and another 4 grades in another class. So the teacher had to teach at least 4 grades at a time.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, it was, I couldn't complain. So I would say clothes and shoes were handed down to me from my older brothers.
Yeah. How many siblings did you
I
have?
have 3 siblings, 2 brothers and 1 sister.
Yeah.
They're all older than I'm
Yeah.
the youngest. My oldest brother is 10 years older.
Yeah.
And my mother was very concerned always about education.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
Because she came from a different village and
Yeah.
she was well educated. My father not necessarily, he was a farmer.
Yeah.
But he was educated, but not as well as my mother.
Yeah.
And my mother was always concerned about education. So
Yeah.
which means after grade 7 or 6, I think it was, you could switch from a normal school to the middle school.
Yeah.
So and that was in the city of Bremen. So I had to bike every day, morning and afternoon, for a little bit more than half an hour to school.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what winter or summer was,
Yeah.
right? So that was just a given.
Wind or storm, that was all part of it.
Yeah, that was just a given. And this, I didn't know much, I must say, about the world. What the teenagers know today, I had no clue.
Yeah.
But that was normal, right?
Yeah. So you did then. So you went to the middle school,
Yeah.
and that were another 4 grades, or
That was a grade went up to grade 10, and you
Yeah.
could go to what's called gymnasium over there.
so.
that
What
takes you-
did you have to go to a bridging period
No. I
directly from that grade?
from that grade 7, from grade 6 into 7, there was no bridging. It was difficult to go from the country school to the city school.
Right.
And the principals had to approve of that.
Yeah.
But I was not very good, so my mother, did what she had to do and talked with everybody and had a little bit kind of assistance here and there and all over the place and
Yeah.
made it. I guess I was at the beginning, at the bottom of the performance there. But
So then you went into the next level, gymnasium, or the other level, that then potentially prepared you for the university.
well, that was complicated. Normally not. So I graduated after middle school with grade 10.
Right.
And my English was certainly not the best.
Right.
And my mother had figured this all out. I couldn't really say in much and didn't know what to do, but my siblings are all farmers, and she said, you're supposed to be something else.
Yeah.
I had to learn
Yeah.
the trade of being a mechanic.
Yeah.
A mechanic for agricultural machinery for 3 years.
Yeah. So that's where your farming
Yeah,
heritage came into
that's right. My
place.
mother thought.
And actually it had an effect on your future as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This whole time has such an effect on what you're doing later.
Exactly.
It's just amazing. So, then I had my, after 3 years, I was a certified mechanic.
Yeah. And you were for a period also a mechanic physically, right?
Yes, oh yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was working as a mechanic then.
Yeah.
Also, yeah.
And then somehow you ended up saying, okay, I want to do more, and you went to the University of Bremen.
Yeah, it's sort of. That was, there was a university, there was just in the beginning, there was no university there. But I must credit my mother again, she had figured it out. So in order to transition from the farm to being a mechanic on farming and whatever, so what kind of engineering is there around? And she figured out there's in Cologne, there is a sort of university, not a full-blown university, but you could get something like a bachelor degree there and not go any further.
In Cologne,
In Cologne.
is south of Bremen and somewhat more in
Southwest.
Huh?
Southwest of Bremen.
Southwest, and about in the middle of Germany in that area.
Well, a little bit more, west, south, and I would say it's more still in the north part and a little bit in the west.
Yeah.
It is 1 hour from the Dutch border.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So then I studied there.
Now you
agriculture.
studied what?
In Cologne.
Yeah. And what did you study?
I studied there engineering for farm machinery.
Right.
Weird, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what it was. And I thought, okay. Afterwards, I was working for the company in Deutz in Cologne. And somehow I wasn't satisfied because initially, when I would say you're young and you have a virtual switch in your head, that switch was off because I didn't know what's happening in life.
Right.
But this switch was going to neutral.
Right.
And while I was in Cologne, the big city of now maybe 1 million,
Yeah.
my switch went to on.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know it.
Yeah.
So from there on afterwards, I went to Aachen,
Yeah.
which is on the countryside, on the country point where Holland, Belgium, and Germany come together.
Yeah. And so that is this 3 landing points.
That's
very well known because you can virtually stand on one point. You can virtually touch all the 3 countries
That's
all
right.
around you. So Aachen has a very, very well-known university.
Yeah, I studied there.
Yeah, and so you studied there engineering.
I studied there. I wanted to get away from this whole farm business.
Yeah,
I wanted
yeah.
to be more universal,
Yeah.
and studied there in Aachen engineering and engineering physics.
And so how long did your studies take in Aachen to
I studied there for another 4 to 5 years.
and that then gave you the engineering degree, right?
Degree and my master's degree there.
Yeah, and that was, so just again for those that not always are quite clear, if you say engineer, there are civil engineers and there are mechanical engineers. So were you then a mechanical engineer?
Yeah, there are civil, there are mechanical, there are electrical, there are chemical engineers, and I was a mechanical engineer, but there was a new program. It was engineering, mechanical, and engineering physics. So
Okay.
I really, my switch was on. I wanted to know it.
So you did that for 5 or
Yeah.
6 years, and then you were then done, and then somehow they hired you for another 6 years, and you became an assistant professor.
That's what it
How
is.
did that all happen?
Well, during my time, studying time, I worked already at a research institute. They know me. They knew my history, where I came from. I was not just a theorist, a practice guy, but also a theory guy. And they said, "Okay, so we need you here." And I was hired as what we call over there a research assistant, but it was. Here is the equivalent as an assistant professor.
You see, what I find interesting about it, Albert, is that if I look back at your history, being at the land, close to a city, but still in the land, a small community, you pretty much had to do everything or invent it yourself. You couldn't go to the store and buy it. You had to make it or develop it in some form. And then if it didn't quite work, you had to make it work in some way. And then that created the ingenuity and the requirement to have the ingenuity to make things work. And then from there, and then you went into school. You did, something technically in regards to farm equipment. That was helpful in the future. And then at some point, we'll talk about this more. It made you kind of an inventor of things. And that already developed then, and then kind of built itself through your training in Aachen, and then ultimately, obviously, being recognized as something, an individual that was needed in that particular slot.
That's what you can say. Yeah, thanks for rereading this. Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
So then, what happened now? When are we now? Now you have done 6 years of being a professor, assistant professor at the very prestigious University of Aachen.
Right.
So, what happened next? Because now we must be in the 80s, or where are we?
Yes, in the 80s. I left the Research Institute 82. My assistant professor job, 82, and wanted to go into the industry. And as a company, Messer Griesheim, it's a large corporation, part of the conglomerate, which is called Höchst, how I want to pronounce it.
It's still there.
They are still there, a huge corporation.
Yeah, it is.
And they hired me as a manager of applications. It was a big job. I had several people reporting to me, had my own secretary, what you call today.
How old were you now?
I was then, how old was I? I would have to, I was 30, I was 31.
Pretty young for a position like that.
30, no, I can't reckon it. I was 33.
Yeah, but
33.
still pretty young for that type of a position, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But you had the qualifications.
Yeah, and in the meantime, I had the opportunity to, to work on my PhD and get my degrees there.
So if I properly address you, then you are a doctor.
Right.
You have your PhD.
Yes.
And you are a P engineer.
That's true.
What does the P stand for again?
A professional engineer.
Yeah, professional engineer, just for a public. And so that would be your official title. Mm-hmm. Then obviously we can, we'll talk about this a little bit more later, add another doctorate.
Like you.
Like me. But an honorary doctorate, and not because I was so fortunate to be selected as one as well, but you earned that, so on the basis of being recognized for the things that you have done, on the basis of which they then award the honorary doctorates. It's not something you can buy.
Yeah, but you earned it as well, so don't put you on it,
Thanks, Albert.
I would say you earned it as well, because you just don't get, you get a doctor there.
Yeah.
So you did your thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So in any event, so those are the credentials, and then then you work for OGS for a period of time, and then in 1985, the switch went on again somehow, and you said, I must go to Canada.
Something like this. In the meantime, I was married, and I could convince my wife to go for a honeymoon trip to Canada.
You did?
1978. I was still at the research institute, because when I was much younger, our neighbor had a black-white TV, and only one TV was in the village there, and there was a nice video, a movie about Canada, black and white, small TV, about British Columbia and logging and lakes and what have you. And I thought, one day I will be there. And since then I bought pretty well every book and whatever is there about Canada. I just bought it. I still have that. Yeah. And thought, one day I will travel. And that was 1978.
Yeah.
And since then we have been here and traveled mainly the western part of Canada every year, until we bought a piece of property 83 years ago.
When you went in 1978, was your wife just as impressed as you were?
She was as impressed as I was. You would say, that it works, I would say, only if you go with two people there, or as a married couple, then both have to buy in there and say, this is what we want.
Yeah. Right. Now, you have two daughters.
Two daughters. No, one daughter and a son.
You have one daughter, two children.
Yeah.
And so then you want in 1985, you decided to go to, the family made the decision, go to Canada and land in Vancouver.
Yeah, it wasn't that easy. It took us several years to finally make it over here.
Yeah.
So.
Why was that? Was that because of immigration?
They just didn't want to have good educated people here, obviously. I do not know. No. It was very, very difficult. And the consulate office in Bonn, it was at that time, said, you have to create jobs there to get in.
Yeah.
If you have a company and you create jobs and have a business plan and show the Canadians that when you go over there, you create jobs, that's an opportunity.
That's the key.
Well, that's what I tried, but that was difficult as well. So
yeah.
No, that is just story on its own.
But you did make it, and you landed in 1985
Yes.
in Vancouver, and then you got a job in Vancouver.
I got a job in Richmond, Vancouver, with Vancouver Gear Works, because I couldn't find a job.
That sounds appropriate for your designation.
Yeah, right.
Being an engineer.
Right, yeah, but my wife and I were sitting at English Beach the day after our arrival there. And you know where English Beach is in the Bay, yeah.
I know where it is. Yeah.
So we were sitting on one of the larger logs there, and my wife said, "What do we do now?"
Yeah.
And I said, don't worry. We are both very well educated. We will make it.
Yeah.
We had only a few $1,000s.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I didn't really look for a big job. I said, we just start from the bottom again here.
Yeah.
New country.
Yeah.
Everything is new. My English is the pits, but we will make it. Time will be on our side.
Yeah.
We all need the time. We can't just flip a switch and be where we want to be.
How old were the kids by then?
Say again, please.
How old were the kids when you landed?
The kids, they were
1985?
2 and 5 years old.
So they were very young still.
Yeah,
right.
They thought, the oldest, our daughter thought we moved from one city in Germany to another city. And she didn't understand when she went out to a place we rented, while she couldn't understand the language of the other kids.
Yeah, yeah.
And we said, go out and you will learn it.
Yeah, they adapt very quickly.
Oh, they learned it faster than.
So then in 1986, you decided to go to Prince George.
Well, yeah. I had also my dreams, and I tried to live my dreams, but it's not always possible. I had this job at Vancouver Gear Works, and many things didn't work out there, and then I was a different company in North Vancouver I worked for, and at one point I thought I have to be on my own. In the meantime, we bought a little piece of property south of Fort Fraser, 90 acres. That's the Germans. They buy something in the bush, they build a log house, and said, here am I, and after a few years they don't like it anymore, come out of it. Yeah. So that's what we have done.
So where did you build where Fort Fraser?
South of Fort Fraser, near the Nechako. We bought already land where we were not even immigrated because we were so keen of Canada.
Yeah, you already acquired it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when you decided to go to the Prince George region, that's where you want then?
Not really. We just didn't want to be in a big city. That was not in the big city.
Yeah.
And we thought, okay, we have a place where maybe one time we just can spend a little bit of time there.
Yeah.
And there was no job in Prince George for me at that time. So we had to go back to Prince George, to Vancouver, and I started a job there. I started a company there on my own.
And that company's name was?
Tribotech.
Yeah.
Tribotech.
Yeah.
But to
you
get
started
going,
a couple of companies there, right?
Pardon me?
The one was Tribotech, and the other one was?
Oh, I had several companies afterwards.
Yeah.
MTTI and A&A Tour. That once, as you know, once you're in there and do something on your own, an entrepreneur, then so many other avenues come open, and you go into this, and then your switch, which is on, is then really on. Yeah. And you go. Yeah,
and a lot of times, with all due respect, but a lot of people that have a lot of education, which you do, and are not necessarily always good entrepreneurs. But obviously you had that entrepreneurial streak in you already right from the time you came off the farm, probably. Yeah. And outside of Bremen. So that's always interesting to see that you see somebody, entrepreneur. Yeah. So then, so you did that, and how long? So now you lived back into Vancouver then, or?
Yeah, we lived in Vancouver. Financially, we were so-so, but with my business, I found a customer that needed me, obviously. I built a table in our basement, put plywood on top, and said, okay, I'm now a consultant, where are your customers? So nobody knew me.
Yeah.
So you have to get out there, get known, and if you plug away at it. So I got some customers and built a company and had employees, and
Yeah, yeah.
And then in Prince George, because we had so many customers in the north, Prince George and well, northern BC.
Yeah.
So I said we have to have branch office in the north
Yeah.
to serve our customers better.
Yeah.
So we left Vancouver. Finally, I thought, okay, this big city, as nice as it is, but it wasn't for me.
So when was this, Albert?
That was 96.
96?
Spring 96.
Yeah. So now you've been in Canada for 11 years or 10
That's right.
years. So now you're back in Prince George to stay.
That's right.
Yeah. And so then what happened from there on in?
Well, we continued. I pushed our company further. We
Yeah.
maintained our head office in Coquitlam, which is Vancouver.
Right.
And we established a computer communication line so that
Yeah.
I had my people down there, and we discussed what's going to happen every day.
Yeah.
And I was looking for more customers here, which worked out quite well. And at one time, I guess it was then the beginning, no, it was beginning of it must have been 2004 or so, where I sold that company.
Yeah, yeah.
But in the meantime, I have started other companies.
Yeah, yeah. But you had it well established, so you
Yeah.
should disposed of it and
Yeah.
started another company.
Yeah.
And then at one point, so now you're well established in the city, and the other thing that I thought was interesting is you became a consul to the West German,
Yeah.
to the German government
consul
in
for-
northern British Columbia.
Yeah,
And you were that for how
9
many
years.
How many?
9.
9 years. And so that's not untypical. But I've never met anybody that was a consul for another country. But at that time, I presume obviously you were still a German resident.
Yes.
And so, what's the function of the council other than being the contact of the government where information can flow from the one to the
Well,
other?
it's pretty well German consul branch office. I could do everything here, which the main office in Vancouver does. I could issue passports. I could
Oh my
do
goodness.
everything.
Oh wow.
Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and that was a side job. Was initially was not so much, but once people knew there are many Germans up there in Fort St. John and further north, everybody came to my office and
There are a lot of German people that.
yeah, Puskopé and up there, also here in town also.
Yeah.
So I was quite busy with this, and it was an interesting function, interesting job, which I got only because I was already active in Germany. I was, due to some other things, I became the president of the German Canadian Congress, which is a large organization.
Okay.
And due to that, the German consulate general in Vancouver got to know me.
Okay.
And then said later, when I was here, said, we need you up there.
Yeah.
And initially I couldn't because I was busy, but later on they said, we need you up there. I said,
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Yeah. And so that's kind of what happened.
Yeah.
And then you got quite involved in the community here, in 2000 and from 2000 forward, you were a whole list of them actually.
President.
I don't want to name them all,
No.
but you were
Chamber president.
2020 and forward.
Yeah.
So you were in the president of the Chamber of Commerce. A number of so what I see on the list that you do, you're very community oriented.
I would say so. That's what it is. I am really, because I think at one point there's a little bit of transition that is going just from us only to say, well, I'm in this community. It can be only a good community, also for me, if we do something for this community.
Yeah.
So that was this wake-up call where we go from the I to the we.
Yeah.
And got involved in many organizations. And I was a chamber president, which I enjoyed, Rotary president and what have you. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, and then also you were involved in the city council for Prince George City Council, I think for 2 terms or for about 7 years.
For 2 terms.
Where did that all come from? Is that are you a bit of a politician? And
no, not at all. Not
Okay.
at all. Not at all. So, but another councillor, I think it was Cameron Stolz at that time, came to my office, and people knew me do Chamber of Commerce or my other activities,
Yeah.
and said, "Hey, you know, we need you on council there. We need somebody with business experience."
Yeah.
Well, I was not so sure, but then I thought, gee, you know, why not getting involved in that and being or having the opportunity to contribute in a positive way to our community. So I had to think about it, but then this particular councillor came again and said, "We need you there."
Yeah.
So that was 2011. We said, "Okay, let's give it a try."
Yeah.
And that was 2011. And initially, I really had to get used to this, but then I thought, it's just me, but my voice, if I say the right things and come up with my opinion, I may have a little bit of a dent, a positive dent in there.
Right. Yeah. So the it was during a period that Prince George was evolving. So there were a lot of things going on in the city, and and it brought you much closer to knowing some of the insights and all the other factors around it. And so the like for myself, I came here in 1965, and so it's been 56 years. And especially sitting here in my studio, I'm looking down, we're virtually downtown Prince George. I'm looking down George Street, and in 1965, when I came here, Prince George was a boom town. And so the normal questions that people would ask, how long have you been here, and when are you leaving? So that it was a place where people wanted to make money and then kind of get out, because there was not a good place to have a family. Things have totally changed.
Absolutely.
It's a highly desirable community, and and probably considering all the things that we encounter now, COVID and all the other issues, and in terms of there's so many things around Prince George within a short distance of 20-30 kilometers. We have close to 3,000 or 4,000 lakes, and then we have nature all around us. And Prince George obviously has grown to about 80,000 people, and the makeup of Prince George has changed. In terms of one of the things which I had the privilege of being quite involved in was the University of Northern British Columbia, and you were involved in that as well, in terms of what it was a difficult one to get here, a freestanding university. We finally accomplished that with a lot of help from the region, and and then that grew. A medical school was attached, and now also engineering is being taught at UNBC. You were quite involved in that. Tell me a little bit about that.
I was involved. In a way, I was already involved years ago when I visited my customers here with my first company and found out that there is some technology missing here and there and so on, and spoke about this at UBC, where I was also teaching. And they said, well, why don't you come up with a report and tell us what you see, where is the demand, and talk to companies like Alcan and so on, what kind of technology and engineering they want to see. So, okay, keep that in mind. I came up with this report. That was when I was still in Vancouver, but when I was here and was then president of the chamber, I thought, okay, this is some lever for me. And I still have seen that there's such a demand. And just got going, got lobbied, so to speak, everybody, utilized my council position, got in contact with politicians, with ministers of advanced education, with our premier at that time, and I just worked big time, I would say. I started an organization which wasn't there, which was the Northern Society and Engineering. I wasn't there. I started this organization, and within 1 or 2 years we had 300 members just for lobbying and doing.
Sure.
And we wrote a report, a big report, and certainly confirming that there was a big demand for more technology education in the North.
Right.
Because how can we develop here? How can we just go ahead if we don't have the expertise here and get people from Vancouver
Exactly.
to do things? Right?
Exactly.
So that was a drive, and yeah, I've been involved, but it's just. But I always say there may be somebody who leads it also and is championing it, but the success is always a team effort.
Yeah.
One person alone can't do it. So it was a team effort.
Yeah. Now, that now has been in place at UNBC
Right.
for a number of years, right?
Well, that's just 2 years or so.
2 years.
Not too long, yeah.
Yeah, and it's still a little bit on its infancy, and and so what do they teach there? Is it mechanical engineering? Or
Well, that is civil engineering.
Right.
Although I was already quite involved when it came to the environmental engineering. I was already there involved. And now, at the moment, I think it's the fastest growing faculty. Within a very short time, they have 260 students in there.
Wow.
So, if we want to have, that's a completely different topic now, if we want to have a university that's worthwhile to be here and not being questioned because we don't have enough students, then I would say have the right programs, do the right advertising, and
The students will come.
the students will come.
Yeah.
It just needs, well, I got to be careful with it. It needs to be management and leadership,
Yeah, no question about that. Yeah.
and it will happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
It will happen.
So I've also been quite involved in the College of New Caledonia.
Yeah, I know.
And so we got, for all the same reasons that, one of the, when I gave my, and obviously the Trades and Technology Center was named after me, which was a great honor.
Yeah,
but it took some effort to buy that building and to get the program started, and it's now the Trades and Technology Center. When I gave my presentation to when we opened it, is that I always said that it is, this region here is unique, it has immense potential with the resources, and then in the Prince George region in particular is a crossroads of all transportation, by air, by rail, by road, and it will attract investment, and we have the raw material for making the products, and we have the transportation infrastructure. The only part that will deter investors from coming in is access to a skilled workforce.
Right.
Hence,
Right.
the Trade and Technology Center was critical. Right now, we are again at the point where we are working together with other stakeholders on a center of excellence here attached to the College of New Caledonia, which brings it further into something not unsimilar conceptually than BCIT. And I call it the Center of Excellence, and I believe that's the next step that we have to develop, because unless we have the infrastructure in terms of training and education, we will not attract the skill sets that we need to build the region.
Absolutely.
And if no different than the university, you train them here, they will stay here.
Absolutely right.
And the interesting part is that a lot of times I'm sitting in a boardroom. I was in a boardroom at our company with a number of people, and every single one of them was an alumni of the University of Northern British Columbia. You are now too, so am I,
Yes.
so is Scott. How about you, Jeff? you know, yeah. And so we are for our listeners and watchers is we are sitting here with 4 different people. I didn't know that at this time, but now I know that again 4 alumni of the University of Northern British Columbia.
Yeah.
Case in point simply is that you train them here, they stay here, they will excel here, and they will build the region.
Yeah.
And so I feel very, very strongly about that.
Yeah. And I was by your opening speech, I was there as well. So
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, you are right. I can just copy all of what you said. Right.
So the other part then, Albert, you have had a very interesting background, obviously, and what I see, no indifference to me, is that I'm in the lumber business. I started that when I was young. My grandfather was a master carpenter. My dad managed a small remanufacturing plant, and my destiny was in lumber.
Yeah.
And then also being entrepreneurial. And so the reason that I make the point is that this program, I hope, will be watched by also younger individuals that are still kind of searching for, where do I want to go with a career? And entrepreneurship, how does it develop? How does it involve?
Yeah.
And it has all those elements in it, and everything is possible. That's always been my approach.
Yeah.
In my office, we have, I got it from my employees, a sign on the wall that says a couple of things. It says $20 or $25.47. And so what does that mean then? That's what I had in my pocket when I came here. I didn't speak the language, I didn't know a soul, and I didn't have a job. And I stopped at a Greyhound station about a block away from here, and with 1 suitcase, 1 set of clothes, and saying, what do I do now? But I had a dream.
Yeah.
And then so if you look at the $25.47, underneath it reads attitude, passion, work ethic equals success. Those are the critical elements, and that everything is possible.
I agree.
And so that's the message that I have, for the people that are now. The other thing that happened with you is that it's a bit of a special day for you today. Not only because you're sitting here with me, but that's not the point. The point is you wrote a book, and it came out today.
Well, yes, yesterday. Yesterday, and some of what we discussed is certainly in this book in more detail. And then I thought later on, I missed that and that and that. But then I would have had 1,000 pages. But who reads 1,000 pages about me? Yeah. Those are just 250 pages.
Yeah. Have you been thinking about this for a long time, or?
Good question. No. I just thought, we came to Canada when our kids were 2 and 5. Why don't I write down what happened in Germany, and had a lot of pages there and folders and all of this was flying around there. And I thought I have to bind this. So I was binding it, and then I thought, why don't I just put it in a little book, not for me because I know what happened, but for my kids and for my grandkids.
Yeah.
That was the goal.
Yeah.
And so I've been working on this for a long time. Still find when I read it now that I should have done a better job, but this probably is always the same when you write something up.
Right.
So it's I have given it to Books and Company yesterday. I met today with somebody and said, Albert, you got to have some marketing strategy. I said, well, I'm not making money with it, and it was never the intention. It was for my family, but if now others want to know about it, then I would say, go and buy it, right?
Right.
So,
yeah.
But I'm quite happy that I kind of got it together, what I have done and so on. And I must admit, when I was at a research institute in Aachen as an assistant professor and was also working on my PhD at that time, that was very, very demanding, because over there you really have to, when it comes to engineering, come up with new ideas, that are kind of benefiting the society in one way or the other. Could be theory or practice or whatever.
So in order to, just again for the benefit of those that are looking and listening, is that, a PhD is just not something that you finish the class and so therefore you get a PhD. No, you must develop a paper or a document and documents in some form of a fashion that is uniquely different, is being evaluated. If you earned on the basis of that the PhD.
That's
about
probably,
that.
Yeah, it's around this. Or you have to really test whatever you have in your mind. You got to test it. You have a test example. You have to build a rig. It took me years, and I was really very frustrated. And sometimes even before I wrote the book, I had kind of woke up in the morning with night sweats and so on. But after I wrote this book, done. I had it out of my system, because it was a very stressful time to come up with something that really gets you there.
Now you're talking about the PhD book, not this book.
Not this book. That took me.
That's
4
what
years.
it takes to earn that PhD and the doctorate.
That was hard. In engineering, it was hard. I must admit this.
So then, let's look forward. Where are you? Obviously, you wrote the book.
Yeah.
So where do you go from here?
Well, that's a good question. God is guiding me. I enjoy, to a good degree, being, how should I say this, a pensioner. A pensioner is wrong, because I'm quite busy. I'm building currently a log cabin south of Fort Fraser.
Okay.
I'm quite involved in that. I'm still an advisor to some people. Some other ones say, "Hey, Koehler," run through the city and said, "Hey, Koehler, we need you back on council." I said, "I've been and done that. I know it probably would work. If I wanted to be there, I don't know." At the moment, I'm quite content where I am. I must say I'm at the same time still on the board of the Mennonite Central Command.
That is MCC,
MCC, Henry Rempel Trust Legacy, and so, because they have many apartments here in town.
Yeah, there are about 5 directors, 6 directors. The Friesens are on there.
Well, yes.
Yeah. And
so I'm the only Northern director.
Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah. So the other I thought that I didn't know all that much about, but I didn't know that they are substantially. Henry Rempel is a prime example of the investment and recognizing values, and has given back a whole lot.
Yeah.
And if we look at the apartments in town here, there are several of them that a lot of times they MCC, the Mennonites Trust, is getting assets by donation, but they also invest in opportunities that present itself. They have somebody working full-time in the Prince George area, I believe.
They have somebody there, yes. He is kind of managing the apartments and so on. There are many apartments. There are, I guess, 15 apartments and apartment buildings. But
the one they have that has something like 200 or 300 units in it.
Yes. So there's lots happening. But people don't know this. And they've been looking for a director. There was somebody before, but he, I would say, aged out, so to speak. And they asked me, because I was obviously known in town, whether I would like to be there. And I've seen this as something that also contributes to giving back to the community and others. So I'm on there for a year now. They are really interested in what I'm doing. They have a strategy meeting early next month,
Yeah.
And a few days later, a board meeting, and I said, well, can we do it per Zoom? They said, no, Albert, we want you here. We fly you in,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
means they're really meaning business. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
which
I
is good,
appreciate that.
Yeah.
So that's good. So I'm doing that.
So that is part that. So you have these different things you're doing that that keep you occupied.
Yeah.
But it sounds to me, maybe I'm reading between the lines here, that you still can do something else that you're kind of searching for.
If it fits my interest and there are things, then I would say, yeah, but it has to fit in. It's not for me to make money with something like that.
No.
I never looked at that.
Yeah.
So for me, it is how can I contribute? I'm financially okay.
Yeah.
I work for it hard. You know how it works.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's time now to see how
Give
can
back.
I continue to give back.
Yeah. So, how is your contact with Germany, with your brothers and sister?
Good.
Yes. So, are they still in Germany,
Yeah.
and are they still in the Bremen area?
Yeah. When you're in this village and you marry around, then you're not too far away from there.
That's what I always say. It happened by us. If by us, it would be by us, meaning in the province that I'm from, Groningen, right by the German border. So there, the family is all there, and then can you believe this? There, the family comes together, and you know something, Pete, he moved away 60 kilometers and say, oh my God, how could he do that? And now, oh my God, what did he? They don't know anybody. Everybody lives within 20 kilometers, so that is very traditional.
Yeah. No, my siblings and others, most of them have visited us here multiple times, or we have gone back. They now understand me, and especially after I wrote this book, somebody said, one of them, can't speak English at all. And he said, Albert, nice and dandy, but, do you have something like this in German? So I translated the whole thing into German.
That's a good thing.
And that thing is now available in Germany as well.
Yeah.
And afterwards he said, now I understand what you did over there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Now, it's very good. But it's rewarding that you did the book, and so
I leave that here for you.
Yeah, and I have one for you as well. So that I wrote, and that came out on March the 12th, I believe. And
I've seen it all over the place.
Yeah. So then, what are your daughter's names?
My daughter.
Or your daughter and your son's name?
My daughter is Andrea. And my son is also Albert Junior, Albert Koehler Junior.
Okay, and so what are they doing in their lives?
He is a land surveyor, a certified land surveyor, and is very busy.
Yeah.
He was first employed with several companies, including McElhaney, and then he said, Dad, I learned all of this. He was in Alberta and here and all over the place. I go on my own. And they said, you shouldn't do this. Now you have an employment, you have social insurance and all these things that come with employment. Dad, don't tell me anything. You have done it yourself. He said. So he took all of my arguments away.
Yeah.
I said, okay, son, do it, and I support him.
Yeah.
He's very busy, has a good wife, and they have 2 kids.
And your wife's name is?
My wife's name is Jutta.
Jutta, yeah.
And she is originally a civil engineer. We met at the University
of Aachen.
In Aachen.
Yeah.
Like my mother always said, universities are marriage grounds. So you find like-minded people there.
Yeah.
And we are still married now for 43 years.
Yeah.
And I hope it stays like that.
Yeah. Well, obviously.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
And my daughter is Andrea. She started out to be a nurse, studied here.
Yeah.
And has...
At UNBC?
At UNBC, yeah. So another example. Example. And her husband
alumni
is with the Minister of Environment, studied also here.
Yeah.
So all these, I would say, young people contribute in a wonderful way to our community,
Yeah.
and the university as well, the college. They
Yeah.
are doing their thing, right?
Yeah.
So we have 5 grandchildren between age by 3 and 10. They are often at our place, and
Yeah.
I must say,
Life is good.
life is good. I cannot really expect much more other than the usual things. So one said once to me, there's always the worry box.
Yeah.
The worry box is full. If
Yeah.
one worry goes out, there's another worry coming in.
Yeah.
So I think that's normal.
Yeah. No,
We're
it
going to
is.
deal with it. Right?
Yeah. So Albert, we're nearly at the end of our podcast. I hope it made you feel comfortable, and at the same time, I got to know, and our listeners and watchers got to know a lot more about you and your background, the entrepreneurial side of it, and as well as your training, which is unique. And I bought for you a book. That is my book, Against All Odds.
Yeah.
That I wrote. It took me 80 years to live it and 20 years to write it. 20 years to think about it, and then 2 years to write it. And so I'm going to give you a copy of that as we exchange.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I have nothing written in here yet, but I will.
No,
Okay.
I'm going to shake hands about
Thank
it.
you.
And,
Thank you.
and I want you to write my name in it if you can.
In here?
Yeah.
Okay.
From that I got especially from you.
Yeah,
So I
will.
wrote this
I
in
will.
yours.
I will. Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. I will. Is the camera still on or what?
Oh yeah. We're
okay,
doing that
okay.
on the camera because I want to show the people that I have your book, and it's available and for books on 4th, right?
Yeah. On 4th or 3rd or whatever. Right?
On 3rd, and so it just came out yesterday, which is the 16th of August, and so I'm going to read it, and then I'm going to let you know what I think about it. And
Yes.
And especially now after the interview, it's already very interesting. So to all our guests, thank you again for watching our podcast, for being on the brink, and thank you to our guest Albert Koehler, and thank you for the book. Thank you very much.
Thank you.